Hey, hi, good evening. How is everyone? Good to see you. Kyle, are you hearing like some music in your headphones?
Yeah, that might be my fault. But I'm not hearing it, but I was just playing around with StreamYard before you came on. That little bit where you've got banners and brands and stuff. So there's a brand bit which allows you to put on music.
Ah,
It should be gone now.
it is
I,
gone
I
now.
never heard it, so it didn't work for me.
Oh, okay. Well, it worked for everybody else.
Okay. But, yeah, I
It
didn't hear it.
wasn't bad. It wasn't like, like this is awful or anything, but I was like, what? I'm looking in tabs, like, do I have YouTube open? What's going on?
Well, I was inspired by Servative Shiloh, RPG Elite, where he's got that constant low beat going in the background. In combination with his hat, so I get this whole Barry White kind of vibe from him.
Okay.
He
Well,
always has those hats. He doesn't seem to be, just wear a plain old baseball hat or anything like that. He's got the stylish ones going down. The man's got some style.
right on. So I'm sure, as you all saw in the thumbnail video, he is unfortunately indisposed tonight. Like us, he works on a production schedule, and there was a power outage apparently where he's at. So his schedule got knocked back. So you're just going to have to put up with Kyle and I BSing for a.
I assumed it was just because he's a gamer and therefore inherently unreliable.
Yeah. That's why Kyle hasn't stormed away from the live stream. I'm a gamer and I'm inherently unreliable.
Yeah, I understand it. It's all part of that gamer life.
Yeah. Gamer life, body by Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you have a game group. You even if you are not professional game master like Bill, and able to handle a dozen players at once, you still want about 6 in your game group because then 4 will show up. So
exactly,
not the same 4 every week. There'll be 2 or 3 who show up no matter what, even if they're even if their mum dies last night or something, they'll still show up today to game. It'll be the super dedicated ones, and then there'll be the ones that you see every month or two, who just come in, like the guy in the first Gamers movie. Come in, the character berserks and wipes out the enemy, and then he goes off to go out with his girlfriend or whatever. But yeah. You'll always have 4. That's because gamers, so you have to allow for that.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, there's a bunch of funny connections you can pull in there because there's the same number of people are going to come to your game as you're going to have attendance, not attendance, but attendees at your wedding. The percentages are almost identical. So if you sent out 120 invites to your wedding, you're going to have 90 guests. So if you're thinking 90 is a nice number to have, don't invite 90, only 60 will show up. Invite 120, only 90 are going to show up. The number that you want to show up, just, tack another quarter of what you
but there's
invited.
some random variation to that, and there are modifiers to the dice roll. So, for example, if there's an open bar with free drinks, then the proportion that will answer the invite goes up.
Yes, then you must add 1d8 plus 4 attendees, depending on your initial number you invited. But in the model of invite 120 guests, expect 90. You'll get 90 plus 1d8 plus 4.
Yeah. I remember many years ago, it must have been late 90s or 2000, something like that. A guy, Mark, had got a bunch of gamers together, and it was at a friend's place who was another gamer. It was basically, let's establish a game group.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, I want to say 10, but it might have been as many as 12 of us there. And Mark said, well, okay, obviously we have to split it into 2 different groups for, and who's going to take which group and so on. And I said, no, don't do it. just say the next game session is at this time and this place, because then we'll get 6 or something. And he took that advice, and as usual, I was right. So we didn't have like 12 guys show up.
I fully acknowledge that my 11-person strong Monday night game is an extreme anomaly, and the number of people who like freak out when I tell them, I've got 11 people in an AD&D game. 11 people in a role-playing game is like, whoa. 11 people in a Dungeons and Dragons game is like, whoa. 11 people in a classic first edition AD&D Dungeon Masters game is like, I don't believe you. You're one of those people that goes around saying they've read the Silmarillion, aren't you? But I swear it's true, both. Although Kyle steadfastly refuses to believe the latter, rather. But we completely understand. So it's all good. Next Thursday, I did reach out to him. Next Thursday, we're locked in, and we'll see him then. Just tempts you guys a little bit more. Looking into the future for next week, I do want to bring this up, and Kyle, you're definitely welcome to stop by. So next Saturday will be 2 years I've been engaging in this insanity
already. Wow.
I know time flies when you're locked in your house under government orders and forced to wear completely ineffective face diaper. But let's not go there. Next Saturday, 2 years of the live stream show. And we're going to celebrate it. I am going to be here. I'm going to do a 12-hour stream.
Oh, God.
And Kyle has already said that he will do the whole stream with me. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for the show solidarity. I look forward to it. Me and Kyle, 12 hours. Kyle. No, I'm not going to make Kyle do a 12-hour stream with me. But I will be doing it. But here's the thing. I'm going to wrap the show. Not this coming Saturday. Don't sit around this Saturday looking at my YouTube channel waiting for it to happen. It's a week from this Saturday. The anniversary show. I'll see if I can pull a few guests in. You might stop by, Kyle. You think just to say hello, maybe?
What day is it? What day of the week?
My Saturday, so your Sunday.
My Sunday. Well, I'll probably pop by and you can watch me sweeping up the gym.
That's fine. You know what?
It'll be my Sunday morning.
That's great. That's great.
That's the start of my work week, and that's when I clean this place up.
We'll roll with that. But to wrap up the stream, we're going to have a very special guest to wrap up that stream. I will play the interview I did with Gary Gygax in 2002 in full. So you guys who've never gotten to hear a Q&A with Gary, never seen Gary interviewed, I will share that with you guys, and it'll be a lot of fun if you haven't gotten to hear that audio. I'll warn you, the audio quality is not great at the time. I was talking to Gary on a landline phone, and we had very, very, very bad phone lines. So there's a hum. There's an audible hum throughout it, but you guys,
is it off a cassette tape?
It is not. I actually fed the audio. I had a expensive for the time phone handset that lets you put in a headphone and earpiece, and I just ran that into my PC and just recorded it. So my goofy ass voice and Gary Gygax's words, he will be our special guest at the end of the 2-year broadcast coming up next Saturday. Not this Saturday. Don't show up in 48 hours being like, I'm here for Gary Gygax. It'll be a week from this Saturday. So I'm looking forward to doing that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So What have you been doing? Have you been doing anything gaming wise, Kyle? Getting ready for the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention?
I just game spontaneously, so I don't prepare things ahead of time. That's what the dice are for the most part.
Well, I mean, they're always right. So.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I was rather surprised to hear from an old gaming friend. I'll probably have to link him to this podcast, to this stream later.
Oh, you better.
Damien, who I gamed with years ago, and I was surprised to hear from him because I thought he didn't even like me. He just gamed with me by tolerance. So whenever we gamed at his place and the game was over, his whole demeanor was, "Okay, you guys can go now." It was like that. And then he moved off to the country with a new job there, and basically just ghosted on everyone as far as I could tell. So, and his email popped into my inbox a week or two back, saying he he was living still out in the country with a different profession, and wanted to meet up and have a couple of beers and a chat and a big gamer hug. He said, and I was like, okay, and to game online. He wants to use that horrendous Discord though. So, but yeah, so it's but he titled the email something about geek-togethers, and I think I've mentioned in this stream before about how we used to have a geek-together, and my reasoning being
you have
that each game group, you form your tight little game group and you game together for a few years, and then people get married, have children, change jobs, move away and stuff, and then you're left with just two or three, and you find it's not enough to go on with, so it kind of fizzles out, and then you're looking for new players, but you often don't know anyone. And my reasoning was that usually in a game group of say 5 people, there's going to be one person who's in 2 or 3 other groups. They just game full time basically, and there'll be another person who was until recently in another group, and they just moved or something, so they couldn't game with them anymore. And so indirectly, and then there's the others who gamed with others years ago. So indirectly, you and your game group might actually know 20 or 30 gamers. So my reasoning was, if you meet together in a pub and you bring not just the people in your game group, but all the gamers that you know, that we could get quite a lot of people. So for a few years there, every 3 to 6 months, I would have a geek together in the pub, and we didn't game on the spot. We just had a few drinks and told gaming stories. And I think the lowest we ever got was 6 or maybe 8 people, and the most we ever got was about 24 or 25. And what I was most proud of was that at every single one of those geek-togethers, somebody either found a group, it was a kind of a loose gamer, and they found a group to join, or they some other gamers formed a new group. So it was geek-togethers bringing gamers together, and that worked really well. So yeah, he titled that, so he obviously remembered them all fondly, and that yeah. So I haven't been up to any gaming yet, but that may happen in future.
I hope so, man. I really do. I hate a dry spell. I really do. I mean, there is nothing, and I've shown occasional video clips of around here, and for newer viewers, if you get the impression that like this is a studio, this is basically just sealed in Lexan and it's all just props. No, this is my game room, and I don't, strolling through sometimes, and it's like, I can see a little cobweb going between a miniature held up by or a sword held up by a miniature down to the surface of the table, or my D&D books have gotten buried under parcels and jackets and bits of laundry because I got to share part of this space with a washer dryer. It's like, I hate this. I got a game now. You know, I was telling Aurora, she's been a guest on the show a few times. She's in the Monday night group. I was like, if you guys were down for it, I'd play 3 or 4 nights a week. I did no lie. I would straight up play that AD&D game like 3 or 4 nights a week. I'm like Will and Stranger Things. Now can we play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, so you're that guy who knows hundreds of gamers and would game full time if you could.
If I could, yes, I would.
So you'd be able to bring dozens of people to a geek together, or you'd invite dozens.
Yeah, I mean, if you and I were, closer to get, like, I would show up with a posse. I would, I'd roll in, and it would be like the start of Reservoir Dogs when they're all walking down the alley. It's just moving in. But no, I best of luck, and I'm glad you're reconnected with a gaming pal.
Yeah, and things are starting to look up here in this state. Without getting all political, the situation isn't really friendly to business at the moment, which makes it difficult for the game stores and the game clubs that had closed at the beginning of all these dramas a couple of years ago. It makes it difficult for them to reopen. A bit of economic uncertainty. But I see things becoming a bit more certain, as much as they can given world events. I see things becoming a bit more certain. So I'm hoping some places are going to open up soon, because that's really my thing. I much prefer gaming in person and sharing the snacks around the table and all the rest, where possible.
I mean, yeah, there's. It's funny. I think it's probably, at least in modern times, it's the common dream of the internet gamer. I don't mean people who play games on the internet. You talk to a circle of people saying, well, what would you do if you won the lottery? I'd buy a boat and a private island off the coast, and just me, just me and my family, just leave us alone. Or, the survival net. How about you? I'd buy 500 acres in central Idaho and fence it off, But you get around to the gamer and it's like, well, how about you? And, that's me. I'm like, fly all of my gaming group that's scattered across the country to one location and game like 3 or 4
I thought you were
times.
going to say start a game store. And then I was going to say the old joke of, how do you make a small fortune? Start with a large fortune.
Start with large, yeah.
Start a game store and
how do you make $2 million in the RPG industry? Start by investing $4 million.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I was going to jokingly suggest, now that your government is realizing that murdering the small businessman and the associated economy with it has thoroughly wrecked things, if they start doing those incentivized small business loans with what you've been telling me about the game store environment or lack thereof in Melbourne. The field is fallow. The iron is hot. The time to strike is now.
Well, there's
Kyle's Traveler Store.
They don't have that, but something like a quarter of the shops in the central business district are vacant. And so the city council has got this thing where, you can get free or much discounted rent to do a pop-up shop or something like that. Mm-hmm. So all these little artsy shops and fashion shops have opened up, all these little things. So I'm sure at some point some gamer is going to appear in there. Bunch of magic cards and Pokemon cards and some felt tables or something. I'm not the one to do it, but I'm sure somebody else would.
But I tell you what, I mean, when I see stuff like that, I love to screw with bell curves and that sort of thing. It's like, well, X kind of, shop or pop-up shop, they'll only do this much money. And I just, whenever I can, I like to screw with demos. with demographic curves, just so some accountant at the end of the month for the strip mall or shopping mall or wherever, their eyebrow kind of goes up when they say, really? You had this many people in there? Well, yeah, but just once. What can I say? I'm supporting the small businessmen and doing my part for gamers everywhere.
Yeah, I would have no clue how to do it, in all honesty. I mean, I'm not sure the regular game stores have much of a clue either.
No.
Visited them again last Saturday, on Saturday in the city with my son, and yeah, there's lots of the old. It's exactly the same as it was back when I was a kid, where there's they've got these bookshelves of RPG books, and some of them have been there for literally years, and they still stubbornly won't discount them or anything like that. They won't discount them. They won't promote them. They'll just leave them there on the shelf for all these years. And then they have the one main line, whichever it is at the time, that they're heavily promoting, which in this case is D&D 5th edition. So
I had this acquaintance of mine. He's a good guy, but as I've known him over the years, at least for a little while, I don't know if he's still there, but there's a big gaming store here, a formerly big gaming store, and I've talked about it some. It's called Sci-Fi City. It's now shrunk down and is a shadow of its former self. But I remember going to the store when it was called Enterprise 1701, and of course, gamers who like to do more elaborate tabletop setups, you wind up with boxes of terrain, things like that, and things you can kit bash. There's the 40K gamer, and I read an article, this was years ago, and I really feel for some of the 40K gamers, because you kit bash terrain. It's like, oh, okay, well, oil tanks. I want oil tanks. Okay, well, I'll take these soda cans, wash them out, hopefully, spray paint them gray, put some little rubber tubing. Hey, you've got an oil derrick or something there for Space Marines to fight over or something. But this guy was saying, like, it seemed like twice a month friends or family would bring all their styrofoam packing to him and say, hey, I know you like your tabletop games. I thought you could use this as a bunker. And he's like, I have a garage full of bunkers just because I don't want to be rude. But this shop, Sci-Fi City, sold lots and lots and lots of model railroad terrain. Because, gravel and flocking and trees and that sort of thing. You get that stuff from specialty companies like Games Workshop. You pay a ridiculous premium. You just get model train parts, not so much. Just craft store junk is the frugal scale tabletop war gamers friend. Well, I was teasing Troy the last time I saw him, because in the current shop that houses Sci-Fi City, which is the 4th location it's had in Orlando, going all the way back to when it started as Enterprise 1701, that I know of. It was at least 2 other locations before that. But from 3 of those 4 locations, they have moved that same model railroad stuff. I recognize the boxes. I can tell you exactly what it is. It's a box of, basically, you put it together. It's a tunnel. Your model train would go under it, and there's a grassy hill you put on top. There are some street light pieces, and then there's some baggies rather of concrete. It's like slag. Like they'll do railroad sidings and line them with slag and stuff like that. And it's been there for generations. It's literally been there for like 30 years. And I'm like, look, Troy, it is sun bleached. This came from Corinne Drive over here to Highway 50, and from over here on Highway 50 to up here on further up Highway 50. Get rid of it. Just write it off.
It reminds me of those laws that are still on the books that the government's forgotten about, and nobody's been prosecuted or made use of those laws for 100 years, so they've just forgotten about it, but it's still in the books.
Yeah. What is it like I think it's in Arizona, it's illegal to put an ice cream sandwich in your back pocket in Arizona. It has like a $35 fine or something.
Someone probably did it and sat on a plush leather seat that was part of the...
Yeah, got hopped in the mayor's car, and
there's one in the city of Melbourne that it is legal to urinate in public if you do so on the left rear wheel of your vehicle, and that comes from the days of horse-drawn carriage drivers.
Okay.
They were basically taxi drivers, right? They'd be around in the city all day, and there weren't enough public toilets around. And in any case, they couldn't leave their horses unattended. Somebody might steal their horses.
Right.
So we drive on the left-hand side of the road here. So the idea was, okay, they've got to be able to urinate in public. We don't want them just doing it on like a shop window or something. We want them to urinate in the if it can't be somewhere hidden, in the least obtrusive way possible. So we'll do it on the left rear wheel of the vehicle, because that way the vehicle is shielding most of them from most people's view, at least. So that remains legal, and it will probably remain legal until somebody like urinates on the left rear wheel vehicle of a police car or something, is charged for it, goes to court, gets off, and then they go, oh shit, and they change the law.
No, this actually is legal. He's allowed to do that.
Yeah, or they make retroactive legislation to make it illegal, because they recently had to do that here in Victoria. There's been about 1,000 police officers who every case that they were involved in since 2014 is up for being knocked down, because the 1,000 police officers to be properly sworn officers, able to serve warrants, carry around pistols and that sort of thing, they have to be sworn in by the chief commissioner. The chief commissioner, of course, cannot be physically present at the swearing in of every police officer at every time, and goes around on business and so on. So there's assistant commissioners who will be acting commissioner on that day for that purpose. The legislation did not specifically say that acting commissioners could do X, Y, and Z, including swearing in police officers. And so there's about 1,000 of them who did not get sworn in properly. So all the cases that they're involved in could be thrown out of court. And nobody seems to have noticed it as well, but they could also be prosecuted for illegally carrying firearms. Because a common citizen can't carry a pistol and a taser and a baton and capsicum spray around with them all day. And they also can't wear body armor. So,
oh my God. That is a sovereign citizen's wet dream.
It is. But, the Parliament's going to pass retroactive legislation deciding that it's legal after all. So, but in the meantime, while that legislation is sitting in Parliament, is working its way through Parliament, waiting on the state governor to sign it off, there's all these lawyers desperately rushing to court to try to get their clients off and out of prison.
Oh my God.
In that little gap. Like you said, a sovereign citizen's wet dream.
Yeah. Sir, do you have a permit for that gun? Do you have a permit for your gun? Can I see some ID? You don't need to see my ID. I am navigating across the land as a free citizen.
So I love this kind of insanity. And that's why, the setting of D&D with the implied medieval setting, whether it be Europe or Asia or whatever, is much simpler, because the nobles deal with those sorts of things by just cutting off somebody's head.
Yeah.
And then the legal argument is settled. The real medieval world, of course, was more complex. If you just stabbed the archbishop to death in the cathedral, then there'd be some consequences.
Yeah.
For somebody, someone anyway. Who will rid me of this troublesome priest?
I gotcha. I didn't mean actually do that. I mean, clearly you did. Corian says, who was right? Well, the dead guy is wrong, so.
Yeah. I'm just inspired about that because I started watching the latest season of The Last Kingdom.
Oh yeah, you'd mentioned that in the Discord when we were talking about the how can I say this delicately? Interesting casting choice for King Haakon of Norway in Vikings.
Well, in this episode, they've had there was a Danish character, Breda, and she'd gone off to Iceland apparently, and she comes back with Icelandic Vikings to raid England, specifically Mercia in England. And it's like, I don't really remember that in in the history of the time, but yeah, whatever. Vikings are Vikings. Well, they're not. They're not a history thing. You could basically have like one season be 1 year of real history, or even 10 years of real history, and you'd have like 3 or 4 seasons where nothing happens at all. And then you'd have like 2 seasons where there's this massive confusion and there's like 4 kings in 1 year, and then nobody's the undisputed king, and people who were best friends murder each other and all the rest. It's real history is too much of a clusterfuck to make a good story. Yeah. You could get like a little piece of it to make a good story, but if you want to follow like a family over a generation or something, then it's just too confused and too much back and forth. And I think there'd be an awful lot that you'd have to explain to a modern audience as well, like the whole interplay of state and church, and how things like, well, the Pope has excommunicated the king, and a modern audience would go, yes, so just tell the Pope to go to hell. But they didn't tend to do that in the Middle Ages. Unless they were powerful enough to actually march on Rome, depose the Pope, and then put in a new one.
Well, I mean, you had Henry V, but
yeah. So there were not many who did that. Generally, that, or the threat of that at least, tended to rein them in somewhat. So, and a lot of viewers wouldn't grasp that. So it's kind of necessary to simplify the story, and then. The only problem is that if it goes on for too many seasons, then it inevitably becomes this kind of soap opera thing.
Yeah.
And I've got more of a personal beef with these, The Last Kingdom and the Vikings one, with that they sort of fast forward 10 years or something, but they don't cast new people for it. Like in Vikings, they have the King of England's mother, and so they have she's like a 28 or 30-year-old woman or something, and so they have her as his mother when he's an infant. Okay, yep, that works. When he's 10, yep, that works. But now suddenly he's a 20-year-old man, and they've got the same woman playing her.
Yeah,
it's just very weird. Like, at least attempt to give us some grey hair or wrinkles or something, or a fat suit, or I don't know.
Although I'll say this: when Colleen and we binged the TV show Rome, which, oh my god, that is a show I wanted 10 seasons of. That is something I wanted to see evolve, because I've read the notes, like where the creators of the show were going, and like their storylines, and how they would interweave not only historical but biblically historical storylines, and how this is all pre-woke, so it would have been at least at least somewhat entertaining to watch. But no, we only got 2 seasons because HBO was in a screw you viewer mode. What is it, 2 or 3 seasons of Deadwood and 2 seasons of Rome. Like, oh, you guys are really digging this? We canceled it. Yeah, we did that. But we watched the first season of Rome, and we didn't have to wait like a year and a half for the next season of Rome. And so we start Rome. We start the next season, and there's the son, the young, you know who I'm talking about. He later becomes emperor of Rome. And we're like, oh, wow. Okay, so they're representing this time jump. They got a much older actor. No, it was the same kid. In 18 months, he grew like 1.5 feet, broadened in the shoulders, got muscular, and his voice became 2 octaves deeper. And we're like, that is not the same actor. He was a weedy little blonde-haired kid when this series started. Look it up on Wikipedia. Oh my God, that is the same kid. I mean, he ate his Wheaties for a year and a half. Octavian, thank you, Corian. Thank you.
That happens from time to time, but yeah, just the aging. Vikings, it happened with the main character. I can't remember the character's name, but played by Travis Fimmel, and Ragnar. That's right, Ragnar Lothbrok. And he was meant to be like a 60-year-old man by the time that they threw him in the snake pit, and he's still this 30-year-old guy.
Yeah,
with his little wispy moustache or chin beard or whatever the hell it was, So that's my only beef, not my only beef, but one of my beefs with those shows. They do sometimes need to change the actors and that. But as to what you're saying about Rome and also what I'm saying about the shows like Vikings and Last Kingdom and that, they Last Kingdom's based on Bernard Cornwell's books, the sort of pseudo-historical books where he just takes a historical figure but makes him more central to the history than he was, so that he can be because I mean, it's one of the ways that you solve the problem that I was describing earlier of how do you describe the real history to people living in a very different time. And you do that by, it's the same as the problem of how do you describe a fictional history, like in Lord of the Rings. Well, you have the stranger in the strange land who does it for you. You have the Hobbit. He lives in the Shire. It's completely cut off from the rest of the world. And so when people are explaining things to the Hobbit, then the reader gets to hear about them as well.
Exactly.
The Barsoom novels were the same thing. You had John Carter of Mars. John Carter comes from Earth and he gets zipped off to Mars. So he doesn't know what the hell's going on. So they explain it to John Carter, and that lets us see adventures on Mars, without having like these big, long explanatory passages in the text or having an appendix or something like that. It could just be explained as part of the story. So, but others will tend to go ahistorical, and then but the other approach is to have a real historical character or a fictional one who is kind of artificially central to things. There were real ones who were pretty central, but then they suddenly died of plague or something like that one year and dropped out. But they make them a bit more central so that they can move around and you can see what's going on across the canvas of that, Saxon, Dane, England. So that works fairly well. But when it leads to more than half a dozen books, as in Bernard Cornwell or Game of Thrones, or half a dozen seasons of a TV show, it can lead to kind of jumping the sharks moments and really just I'm a firm believer that writers, most books don't even need a trilogy. I think most fantasy novels are only a trilogy because Tolkien did a trilogy. So everyone else will, oh, I'll be like Tolkien, so I'll do a trilogy as well.
No. I gotta stop you there. The Lord of the Rings was only a trilogy because I think it was Ace Books pirated it when they brought it to the United States and published it as a trilogy because they didn't want to invest in printing a single 1,000 page book if nobody was going to like it. Tolkien describing the Fellowship of the Rings parts 1 and 2 as different books, he intended it to be a single volume. And it wasn't until when it hit the States and started selling in 3 separate volumes that even pirated, that is Unwin and Allen in the UK said, oh, okay, let's do this. But you're right. You are right. I think that's why fantasy authors think they have to do a trilogy, I mean.
Yeah. And then it becomes a trilogy of trilogies, or becomes spin-off books and all the rest. They milk it, The same thing happens with TV shows, and I really think things do better with constraints. It's just like here in the gym. I was discussing with someone the other day. We used to have kettlebells. There's this little metal ball with a handle,
right,
on it, like an old stovetop kettle. We used to have kettlebells, and thought about over the years getting dumbbells and a bunch of other stuff and that. But it works better when we just have barbells. When we just have this stuff, it works better because constraints is like the old story of the kid at school who is told to write about his hometown, and he says to the teacher, I don't know what to write. Well, write about the main street of your hometown. Oh, or write about that building across the road. Or write about that brick, and then the words start flowing. I think constraints tend to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that books and TV shows, they get popular, and therefore they go beyond the constraints. And so you get the same act. People don't want a different actor. Now, we've got to have Alexander Draymond still playing Uhtred, even though he's supposed to be, 45 at this point or something, and he still looks 25. We've got to have him, and he's got to be a ripped 45-year-old. Because that was a big thing in the books, that Uhtred became a bit of a dirty old man, really. But Alexander Draymond cannot pull off a dirty old man because he's a handsome young man, and he's still dirty, but he won't be perceived as dirty because he's good looking. But he's and young,
right?
But anyway, so I believe in some constraints, and if it just they rabbit on, they go too long. You've got to know when to cut it off, I think, and so often they don't. I think if we were more willing to cut it off, then it wouldn't harm anyone's careers, because it could just be, the same from the same author or from the same producers as so and so, and then they could go on and do other stuff in that.
Mm.
And it releases the actors as well. Many of them are quite good and deserve to do a variety of projects. So they're not remembered just for one role in their life.
Yeah. And, that's one thing that, like, over the years, like when I was young or younger, thank you, younger, when I was younger, it always used to blow my mind when I would see, like, usually on PBS, public broadcasting service here in the States, and they would show British TV shows. And they talked about, well, we're showing all 5 seasons. That's right. 28 episodes. I'm like, what? How does that even? But there is a wisdom to it that I understand. And it really finally dawned on me with the TV show Babylon 5. Have a story, set out to tell it, tell your story, and be done. Be done. Leave people satisfied with what you created. The entertainment thing, always leave them wanting more. That doesn't mean you have to give them more. I mean, if I eat a bowl of ice cream, as I occasionally do, I want more. It was delicious. That's not an excuse for me to go out and eat the entire quart and then go to the store and buy another when I need it. It's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great, let me back up on that for a second. there's a show that started out really, really good here in the US, and I don't know if you've seen it. Some of our viewers probably have. You can get your Spycraft on, or your Top Secret, if you watch this show for a little inspiration. It's called The Blacklist, and it has James Spader in it, and he plays U.S. An admiral. He was like admiral level, but he was a naval intelligence officer. And it always kind of trips me up, because they talk about, 35 years ago he just disappeared with a head full of national security secrets, and I'm like, oh wow, 35 years ago, yes, in 1985. Oh, right. So, when they show flashbacks to the old times, it's like, hey, I remember. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm old. Okay.
Just do they show him in big shoulder pads and
they not him, but they have dripped a little bit of 80s fashion when they've flashed back. But the premise is the premise is that the alleged main character of the show may or may not be his daughter, and I don't know if it's ever been resolved. Well, after being gone and allegedly having leaked so many secrets to criminal organizations and so on, he's coming in from the cold. He's basically surrendering himself, and for a modicum of freedom, he is basically going through the titular blacklist, the more wanted than most wanted, enemies that if the average person knew about them and what they knew and what they could do, people would just like drop dead of a heart attack at how horrible what these situations are. And he knows about these criminals, he knows their organizations, and he will drip out that information, and it's numbers like, case number 52, the optometrist. And there's something that kind of ties in with the guy's code name and that sort of thing. So, and in an episode we unravel who the optometrist is, and we stop him before he, unleashes his deadly virus or his, nuclear bomb or whatever. And then there's an overarching plot of, where have you been for 35 years? Are you really this FBI agent's dad? And then there's other interweaving plots with the main character and everything. But I watched it, my wife and I watched it, and the first 4 seasons, we were just like, every other episode was like, oh my God, oh my God, with all the reveals and subplots coming together and aha moments and everything. Random internet hijinks, you're fired. See me in my office later. I've got a promotion for you. Dad joke that bad? You got to get something. But they've been doing that for like 9 years now. And it's like, look, revealing that there's a Soviet missile submarine, submerged in New York Harbor, and that the commander is his daughter is estranged from him and living in downtown Manhattan. And dad says if she doesn't come onto the ship and help them fix up their family ties, he's going to lob a nuke into Central Park. That's very exciting the first time they do it. It gets less exciting. There's only so many shocking reveals you can do before you're like, you click it on, they do a cold open, and you're like, let me guess.
Well, they didn't do the twists and turns, did they? Like Lost.
Oh, not science fiction-y stuff, but yeah.
Because Lost was classic for that. And Lost was like, you guys didn't know. You started with a mystery, and you thought if the show gets another season, then we will reveal the mystery. Oh, we got to get 2 more seasons. We better not reveal the mystery this time, or there'll be mysteries within mysteries.
They are
fuck off.
Lost has not Lost. I'm sorry. The Blacklist has very much gone that way, and it's just like, look, at this point, you can't have the main character suddenly something happens and they have to go off grid, and now the main character who's had all the spy resources in the world is having to live in a garden shed behind an abandoned gas station on a stretch of highway that nobody goes down anymore.
Yeah, the writers are like Conan when he was doing the pit fighting in the first movie. He did not care anymore. Only that the crowd would be there to greet him with howls of lust and fury and eyes on advertising.
Exactly. So if they had ended the Blacklist by tying everything up at the end of the 5th season, it would have been one of the best espionage thriller shows NBC ever put together. But why should I keep the goose alive when I can cut its head off and scoop out just a few more golden eggs, right? That's how that works, right?
And James Spader didn't have anything better to do, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I guess he took a break to go do Ultron.
Ultron.
Yeah, he did the voice of Ultron.
Oh,
so which, I mean, his Ultron, with all respect to James Spader, I love James Spader as an actor, but his Ultron was very much just Agent Smith. Like, honestly, I'm honestly surprised Ultron just didn't start pontificating. Humans are a virus, Mr. Iron Man. You're cancer of this planet. But the point is, the point behind what I'm saying is that I think in a lot of ways, British TV got it right by shortening things. And and I can't believe they didn't copy their own formula, because honestly, from the bottom of my heart, Kyle, maybe you might be a little bit closer. You might understand this a little bit better, but I throw this question out for the audience, for you, my co-host. Who gives a shit about Doctor Who anymore? 60 years, let it die.
I don't know. I don't think anyone cares.
It's one of those things, like, it's like Soviet bureaucracy. Why are you doing this? Because we're supposed to. Oh, okay.
Well, I think there's going to be another one coming, and I'm not optimistic about it. Apparently, there's going to be Rift War, the TV series.
This is the point where I throw up my hands and yell, "My God, why hast thou forsaken us?"
Yeah, it was Rift War. So there was the three what is it, mage ones, where he starts off as an apprentice, and I mean, basically it was Rollmaster, right? There was mentalism and essence. There were the two different ways of magic, so, and then it comes from into your head, and then you channel the energy from around you. And so there was young Pug, who they were trying to teach him one way and it didn't work. Then he went to the parallel world and he was able to work magic there. So in other words, they used different kinds of magic. And that parallel world, from memory, I mean, I read this like 30 years ago, so I'm probably wrong. But from memory, they didn't have iron. They were sort of an Asian type culture, and they used like lacquered wood, even for their swords and shit. And so when they were able to come to this parallel world, they're like, oh, yes, good, we get iron. And so he went over there and he learned to be a mage, and then he became a senior guy in their court or something like that. There was like 3 novels, and then there was the spin-off of the whole Rift War, and there was Raymond E. Feist. He did countless novels of these damn things, and I can't remember what they've got rights for, but apparently they're going to do this. Who's going to produce it? Who's going to produce it? 6 Studios, genre focus company. BCDF Pictures previously acquired rights to the first novel, Magician. It will produce through 6 studios, producers, and former Lucasfilm executives. It doesn't say which TV show it'll be on, a TV channel or streaming service. But apparently, LA-based Choi is the founder of experiential studio The Great Company, which produces interactive experiences for brands such as Marvel Studios, HBO Max, the Smithsonian, Foot Locker, and Pepsi. They've got clear vision. Yeah, so it might just be in development hell and not actually happen, because I don't see a mention that HBO has laid out $100 million to make it or something like that. So we can hope it just stays in development hell.
Yeah, I mean, develop. I don't want to get too spiritual in our audience here, but from a Judeo-Christian perspective, you have to realize that there is a certain justice to hell, and the same is true in entertainment. So when you hear that Robotech / Macross is in permanent development hell, that a U.S. production of Akira is in development hell, that this is in development hell, it's good and it's just. It is proper that they are in development hell, where they should stay forever and ever. Because the only thing it's doing, the only harm it's doing, is to the bank accounts going back and forth between producers and directors. If it gets produced, then it hurts us all.
So on that topic, do you think the same thing can happen to a role-playing campaign? It's time for it to just end.
Yes, unquestionably. I think
How do you
know? So when the players become so jaded with their characters that you as a game master or you as a player have a sense of rote repetition behind what they're doing. Okay, well, the fire giant king draws his black iron sword and steps forward and says, "You'll never rescue the princess." Ho, 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 ho. And, just, okay, what are you doing? And Aurora's like, "I draw my sword and charge with a capital C." Okay, on initiative, what are you guys doing? I'm casting lightning bolts. I'm hitting him with cone of cold. I'm casting fairy fire. I'll cast bless. And you when you know that you've thrown every challenge at a party that you can, and they start to seem jaded with it, and I don't think it's even necessarily time for you to stop gaming. Just that campaign. And there are other campaigns too where, we've blown up the Death Star 3. Playing in the James Bond campaign, the USSR has fallen today. Don't have to worry about that, because we all know that Russia was never a threat again after the USSR fell. I just think there are key events that leave no areas to be explored, and if you continue exploring those areas to the point where your players do become that jaded and they start to sound bored, then it's time to have the last episode. All good things must come to an end. I mean, in my head, I have an endpoint for my Monday night, this campaign that the players are playing in.
See, I would rather stop it before it's fizzling out rather than after. And so that's why for a long time, in combination with the open game tables, my approach was to have those kind of terms where it's going to go for like 10, 12 weeks or whatever, and then it will stop and we will do something else. Because I remember Yeah. Like players who are feeling a bit iffy about the current campaign, if they know it's going to end in 3 or 4 weeks anyway, they'll stick around and they'll finish it, and then it'll be better for everyone else as well. Because if players start leaving, it starts to get hard to continue the campaign. And then you can do something different and new and fresh, or somebody else can run a game as well. That gamer Mark, who I mentioned much earlier, he used to have a thing that once a month there would be a non-role playing game night. Have a night where the group will do a board game or watch a movie or something like that, just to keep it fresh. And that was often used to kind of discuss the campaign and how it was going, to see if people wanted to continue with it. It wasn't usually explicitly asked, do you want to keep doing it? But people would bring it up anyway. And saying what they were enjoying and what they weren't, and so on. And that would just be discussed casually while we're all watching an action movie or something. Or playing Monopoly or a war game or whatever. So there's lots of ways you can do it. You can have that like monthly break, or you can say this campaign is going to last 10 or 12 or whatever sessions, no matter what. And then we will have a week's break, and then after that we'll come back and do something different. Somebody else will GM, or would change from D&D to Traveller or whatever. That works too. And one of the things I was heartened by when Damo contacted me, that I mentioned earlier, was him saying, "Yeah, we run short campaigns, like 10 sessions." So I think that works pretty well. It keeps things fairly fresh. And it helps keep people engaged if they know that they're not going to have to be there forever with the same character and the same GM and all the rest. It keeps people engaged and going, and they're also more willing to try out games that they've never done before. Like normally, if you say to somebody, "Let's play Rollmaster" or something, they go, "No. Like actually, I'm busy that night. I'm washing my hair."
That is the correct response to "Let's play Rollmaster," by the way.
But if you say we're going to do it for 10 sessions, I go, "Oh, well, okay then." For 2 or 3 months out of the year, yeah, whatever. Okay. Can we go back to D&D after that? Oh, yeah. All right then, we'll give it a go. But you have to pre-gen the characters for me, okay?
Right.
And then they're willing to give things a go. So let's try a greater variety of games, because let's face it, all of us have got role-playing games on our bookshelves that we've never played, or that we played once 10, 20 years ago and would like to give another go if we have a chance, So, so I tend to plan ahead for the campaign fizzle and try to avoid it happening altogether by having limited length campaigns. Because remember, of course, after those 10 or 12 sessions, if people were really loving what they were doing, they can always say, "Let's do that again. Let's continue with those characters or continue with that game system."
Sure. And
I've yet to have that happen with Rollmaster, but
well, I think that is that is a very, very important thing. I think I think you have to listen to your players in either hand. Now, my Monday night game, like I said, I have a campaign, a Gotterdammerung moment for this campaign. It's not going to be reached anytime soon, because part of the path lies through a series of classic AD&D modules that I really, really want to run. And then with my own created end game. Yeah. But I do ask my players periodically. I'm like, "Hey, are you guys enjoying the game as it is? Are you having fun?" And I think that should be your rule zero as to whether or not it's time to put the campaign out to pasture. If the players are coming to you saying, "You look, can we keep this going? Because I know we're coming to a point where things are like a big, Frodo throws the ring in, Sheridan sends the shadows and the Vorlons out of the galaxy, Luke blows up the Death Star" moment here. But we really like your campaign world, and we really like your game. Or conversely, we've been playing this for 16 sessions, which is 4 months now. can we do something else? I think the moment is, if the players come to you, but you might have a group of players who are just like, well, he or she, plenty of women that game master, has got something they're doing, so I guess we'll just sit here and let it play out until it wears on them and they want to quit. Or you do your thing and you're like, and that's it. I'm not okay. You slew the Orc King. Is somebody going to run something next week? And everybody's like, wait, what? That's it? So I think in either case, for either contingency, it is important that you keep up with what your players want too. I think a good way to tell is if the players tell you. If you're asking them periodically, are you guys still having fun with this campaign? And the answer is, well, I was actually going to work on my car, but the part hadn't come in yet. So I figured I'd come over. If knuckle busting, wrench turning almost beat you out, maybe change your game up a little bit.
Oh, well, I usually go by the in-between game banter. Because you have the email list to confirm that people are coming next week and all that sort of stuff. So if in between the games they're talking about what's going on and what their character's going to do and all the rest, then that's they're engaged. It means they're interested. It's the same here in the gym. If people are the people who are most reliable here in the gym, most likely to show up, most likely to kind of focus on what they're doing when they get under the barbell and do it properly. These are the people who tend to message me between workouts about their food and, I'm scared of that weight next time, or I'm looking forward to learning this lift or whatever. So that the in-between session, whether it be a gym session or a game session, the in-between session banter is usually a good sign that they're engaged and they're interested. Whereas if they just completely go silent, right. I mean, some people, that's just their personality. They're kind of turtles. But if they completely go silent, it's usually not a brilliant sign.
Yeah. So, I guess ultimately it's probably the same thing with, with a TV show, when the ratings start to dip, when people are clicking off of your commercials and they're not watching, they're changing channels, so on. Now I hate mobile phones and social media at the table, but if somebody's doing this, are we still? I cast Fireball. Oh, we're at the inn. Oh no, I don't. Clearly, there's a little bit.
Well, engagement too. I mean, the TV show equivalent would be all the discussion forums about it. Nowadays would be all the discussion forums about it. If everyone's enthusiastically describing what happened on this episode of Lost and speculating about it, then they're engaged. If they're going, what is this bullshit, man?
Yeah.
Then, okay, your show's going to be cancelled soon.
I think with a larger group, again, to point at the Monday game, but even, a large group can be 7 people. For a lot of DMs, that's like a crazy amount of people. Yeah. You're going to have 1 or 2 players who are going to be just like, yeah, whatever, man. Come on, bring it on. Oh, we're all 25th level and nothing is any effort anymore. Cool. Bring it on. Let's keep going. Let's get more of that.
Where's the deities and demigods book? I want to kill Zeus.
Exactly. I want to
see you roll up his treasure.
Yeah, I want to punch Cthulhu in the face. Get out deities and demigods, Bill. I think, and I think you can say, okay, all right, well, we'll revisit that. Let's maybe try some street level superheroes, maybe, So. So I think it can vary. What is now let me ask you this, and this viewers, Kyle, you can tell me, have you ever had players just up and revolt on you?
Up in revolt.
Up and revolt. Just like we're not. No. Like I don't care that you lovingly painted 36 battle mech miniatures and brought all your map boards with you and you've got every house supplement. We're not fucking playing another night of Mech Warrior. It's not happening.
No. I find the most common thing is people just ghost on me.
Oh, yeah, just oh.
Yeah, people just disappear from your game group or your email list or something. You go into their spam folder.
Yeah.
They just ghost on you.
Did I tell you?
They're not. Most people aren't that confrontational. They're not likely to just punch you in the head or something, or tell you to go to hell and flip the board off it. And the most I had one I always remember is this guy Tom. We're playing. So it was in GURPS and it must have been 3rd edition. So at the time, GURPS had this thing. Okay, armor does 2 things. Armor could be read as doing 2 things. Makes you harder to hit, like D&D, or it could absorb damage, like in RuneQuest. Well, this is GURPS, so we're going to do both. It makes you harder to hit and it absorbs damage. So what that meant was, but you had body locations, right?
Okay.
So you could have armor on your trunk, but not your leg. So what it meant was you'd roll the hit, and if you hit, you would then roll the hit location. But because you could find that you were able to hit one hit location, but not another, because one was armored and one wasn't.
Okay.
Right. So if you're wearing an armor shirt, somebody goes to hit, and it was called point defense. That subtracts from their 2 hit roll. So actually, they don't hit you when they hit you in the trunk. But if they had happened to strike the leg's unarmored, so they can get the leg. But it was random what you hit. I think you could aim, but I can't remember. Anyway, it was random what you could hit. So anyway, so Tom had taken a guy with a rapier. He was going to be the unarmored, quick guy, dexterous fighter rather than the hulking beast, And he went and struck a guy, and the guy wasn't wearing body armor, but did have greaves on his arms or his legs. I can't remember. I think it was on his arm. And so he went and he was told that's a hit. And then he rolled for the hit location, which was the arms. And actually, no, you don't hit. So Tom cracked the shits, and he got up and he walked away from the game table and he stormed out of the house. But it was his house. So he got out of his car again, and then he came back inside and continued with the game.
Oh my God!
So, but I wasn't running the game. It was Mark was running that game. So yeah,
stormed out of his that pissed off at a game. Forgot it was his house.
Yeah, he forgot that it was. Stormed out of his house and got in his car, and then he remembered that it was his house and came back in.
Oh man,
but yeah, that wasn't my game, and he wasn't annoyed with the course of the campaign or whatever. It was just that particular silly rule. That particular silly rule could have been. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, they fixed it in 4th edition, so the armor only did one thing or whatever. I can't remember what they did, but you didn't have that silliness anymore.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I have had not with me as the GM. I've had players tell me, like, I put a lot of work into Twilight 2000 campaign once about 14, 15 years ago. And I accidentally got included in a discussion about, well, when are we going to run the next campaign and what are we going to play? And it drove me up the wall. Like it caught me at right the wrong moment. And I just went ballistic because I'm like, You fucking ingrates. These were all people I knew and am friends with, so I get to call them fucking ingrates. I have struggled with these rules. I have put a campaign together, and you guys are already like, well, okay, what are we doing for the next game? And it just I think that's the closest I've come to an actual player revolt, but we patched things up after a while, as friends do. It's like, and I think that's like whether you're talking about a bunch of guys standing out in the back alley drinking beer like King of the Hill, or friends meeting down at the pub, or playing games together.
Well, the email ones are particularly dangerous and destructive, though.
Yeah, because there's no nuance in the conversation.
People read the text through the filter of how they're feeling at the time, so they could be having a bad day at work or something. So they read your light jibing as a cutting insult and never speak to you again.
The nuances of human speech fail completely when it's turned into electronic messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, those also, I was thinking as you were saying, the free ranging discussions of what we should play next and everything never go anywhere anyway. It always has to be, all right, I am going to run either D&D or Traveller. Which do you guys want? That works. To say, here's my bookshelf with 120 different RPGs. Which do you want? There's too many options. For those of the viewers who are old like us, who will remember going into I call it the video store effect, but nobody will get that nowadays. I used to call that. When you go into the video store and you look at all the tapes, and there's 10,000 titles, and you walk around for 45 minutes and come out with nothing.
Yes.
Whereas you go to a friend's place and he's got 6. So within 30 seconds you choose one and you watch it. I think too many options is not good. Same reason again why I just have the barbells here. And, there's only so many things you can do. What are we going to do today? Well, you're going to squat, you're going to press, and you're going to deadlift. Because there's not a heck of a lot else you can do. So, well, you can snatch and clean and jerk, but you're a 60-year-old woman, so that you probably have to do that. So, you can do chin-ups on the racks too, but you're a 60-year-old woman, so you're not going to do that. But you can squat and you can press and you can deadlift, and let's get started. So, reducing the number of options actually gets things moving a lot more quickly.
It does. What is it? The old Malcolm Gladwell bit about the illusion of choice. 10,000 jars of spaghetti sauce, and people only want 2. But if you only put 2, they think you're shorting them.
I just go ahead and short people. Whatever. This is what we've got.
So we have a question from Paul Bacleta. Says, as a percentage, how many players do you two need actively interacting? I've got one guy that's an inscrutable lump, so I cap out around 75 to 80% of the table in character and invested. I try and feel those players out a little bit and like private message them like, hey, you enjoying yourself? If it's a virtual tabletop, or, maybe when we take a break, I'll try and feel them out a little bit. Now, I've had players who have, I was going to talk about the ghost story, and this is a perfect place for it. I met a guy once. I photocopied some D&D stuff at a local copy shop, and there was a guy who went bonkers to join our game. And he was all over it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I kind of felt him out. I talked to the group. They're like, no, invite him over. And I was like, oh, I'm just around the corner, post apartments. Yeah. And he was like, oh, it sounds great. And he's like, hey, there's a very early 2E class from Dragon Magazine. And we had a back and forth about it to make sure it would fit in my 1E campaign. Everything was just hunky dory. And the Friday comes and he doesn't show up, which is fine, and I message him back and his email bounces. Doesn't like I don't email him and I never hear back. I mean, it comes back as undeliverable. He had given me a cell phone number and told me to call him. So I called him. Phone's disconnected. I go back to the copy place for copy business. And I said, "Hey, is Jack, James, something like that. Is he? Oh yeah, no. He his last day was like 10 days ago. Okay. Here was a super enthusiastic guy that I thought was like the next big anchor player, the guy who'll bring the snacks. He was totally 100% invested in it. And at this day, I still don't know what the deal was. But on the flip side, I've had players who were quiet as a church mouse, maybe said 5 words in character through an entire session, and they come back and they tell me about the incredible amount of fun they had. Yeah. Like, this was I had so much fun. And in cases like that, I've kind of a couple of times when I know the people, and I know it was okay to rib them a little bit. Well, you were awfully quiet. I couldn't tell. It's like, oh, well, I just didn't know anybody, or I didn't want to mess things up, but no, I had a lot of fun. And gradually those people will come out of their shell. As a percentage, I mean, how many do I need? I would say, it's good to know as long as, at least at some point in the evening, people engage a little bit. Whether I have 5 people, I want to hear from everybody at the table at some point in the game with something in character, even if it's second person in character, like my fighter Bob thanks the man and gives him a silver piece, thanks him for the rumor and gives him a silver piece. And we go on about the table. So that's kind of where I am with that. Kyle, how about you?
Well, I wouldn't say a percentage. I would say more numbers. So there's a couple of things I think of. I think I mentioned before, I was reading this thing about kind of human social groups and interaction, the Dunbar's number of 150, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, they said, I think it was at most 4 or 5 people can have a conversation. Past 5 people, it becomes 2 or more conversations. So, if you've got 10 people there, you're not having 10 people have one conversation. You can have one person who's lecturing them, or doing a PowerPoint presentation. I hope that didn't trigger any office workers. But 10 people aren't having a conversation. So
yeah, that's a shouting match.
Yeah. So 6 or more is going to be 2 or more conversations. Now that matters at the game table, because in a virtual game table, it'll be a bit hard to manage because it's hard for them to have the side conversations without talking over everyone else. And around a big game table, it can work if they're having multiple little conversations, as long as they drift back to the main thing. Because a game group is it's midway between a normal conversation and a lecture, because you've got the game master there. And the game master is, in some senses, giving a lecture. They're describing the game world, and they're kind of moderating the group and leading them in one direction. I don't mean in a railroady sense, but they're trying to herd the cats. So
right.
The cats get to go in whatever direction they want, but they have to go together. Don't split the party because it's a pain. So go wherever you like, but please go together. So there are aspects of lecture to it, but also aspects of conversation to it as well. So with that in mind, if there are a lot of super engaged people, then they're going to be talking over each other, and even the game master won't get a go, and they'll be fighting amongst themselves. On the other hand, if you have no engaged people, if it's just the game master, it's going to be boring as hell. And if you have just one engaged person, they're going to kind of dominate the others, and they'll feel bored. I've never run long-term large game groups like Bill has. Mine tend to be 5 or 6. I find about 3 really engaged players works well. Because if it's 2, it's like, okay, Anna and Bob are going to argue again about what to do. Or Anna and Bob are going to team together and tell everyone else what to do. And even if the other people actually wanted to do the same thing, the fact that they were told to do it pisses them off. I get told to do at work. I don't want to get told to do it in my hobbies too.
No.
So I find 3 is a good number because the 3 will never completely agree, and there will be a little bit of kind of buzz and back and forth between them. So I feel 3 very engaged players, or pretty engaged players, is a good number, and then a bunch of others who are engaged from time to time. And as Bill said, that you get some sort of contribution from each person at some point during the game session, so that if nothing else, it reassures us as game masters that the person's going to be back next week.
And I think that there is, as you say, there's a danger in having the one person who's ever engaged, and there's a couple of dangers. One is that if you start out with a game where 5 players, 5 wallflowers, one comes out of their shell, they're now leading the party. The party is basically working as armor for them. It's like
that's what Men at Arms are for.
Yeah, exactly. You have one player, and then 5 players moving their men at arms around and tracking the resources of the men at arms. The other problem is if that person splits off from the table, whether they just started gaming with your table or they're an experienced player, is it's kind of bad for the community. And I do care about the larger RPG hobby, not just what happens at my table, but it becomes bad for the community because you've unleashed a monster onto the world. That guy, he leaves my game and goes over to Kyle's game, and suddenly Kyle's got to deal with this guy who doesn't want to hear no, doesn't want to hear wait your turn. No, I'm
that's all right. I know how to deal with those.
You know how to deal with them, but I
am the GM. I wear the Viking hat.
You wear the Viking hat. I am the maze controller. You don't have enough points. Sorry.
Others may suffer. I understand.
But there's a I think there's something to be said for hopefully having amongst your engaged players enough disagreement, if that makes sense, so that they don't wind up dragging the rest of the party around. It's like 3 players discussing what the party's going to do and where the party's going to go. And I try to help avoid that as a game master. With 11 people, as you say, 11 people can't have a conversation.
Yeah,
5, 6 people,
particularly online. Particularly online, because that's one disadvantage. That's one of the reasons I prefer in-person gaming to onlining where possible, because in person you can have those little side conversations. And online, requires a lot of typing to do a private message or something like that, because you're all on the same track.
Yeah. So and with audio, there are visual cues. Like you and I will do this, and I'm sure it drives the audience up the wall. But sometimes you and I will step on each other conversationally. I don't think that would happen if you and I were sitting in a studio doing this. I think there would be enough. There's network lag because you're hearing what I'm saying a second or two after I say it, and vice versa. And then there's lack of presence. I mean, you are this big on a monitor down here, and likewise, I'm this big on a monitor down there for you. So online, there's a real danger of a ton of crosstalk. So I completely get, the advantages of face-to-face. Again, to go back all the way to the beginning of our conversation, if I hit the lottery, I would pay for my group to fly to some central location 4 times a month. That's one gaming session a week. And we'd, whatever person is least suited.
Well, they have to bring their own snacks.
Oh, come on. I hit the lottery. I think I can cater to.
No. Like, you hit the lottery and you're using it to fly them out to game. They can at least bring their own damn snack.
All right. Yeah. All right. Go to the duty-free shop. Bring me something nice. A bottle of Stoli and some smoked salmon. Come on. Step up your game a little bit. None of these weird potato chips from the Korean market. A little callback for you there. Wait your turn happens every campaign, every time. It does.
Speaking of wait your turn, you have to wait a week to see me again. I've got to go have lunch.
All right, man. Listen, go eat lunch. I'm going to wrap up with a little mail call. We got a little something from a viewer and a gamer who games with me. So, Kyle, we will see you next week. Servant of Shiloh, hopefully, will have his editorial issues taken care of, and we'll catch you then. Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Peace, my brother. All right, that was Kyle Shewan, and I'm going to take these studio cans off. Pop. So I don't think anybody else is going to want to talk into my ears. None of you lot, anyway. So just wanted to thank, because we have a great mail call now. I had told you guys earlier in the week that one of my Monday night players had shown us all his collection of Grenadier Dragon of the Month Club minis, and then said, tell me which one you want. And these are in boxes, by the way. These are not opened. These are not like painted and dinged up and rubbed till the detail comes off, that sort of thing. Speak of the devil and he'll soon appear. So he reaches out to us and says, you guys pick one and I'll send it to you, with a caveat that you have to paint it. Well, I'm nothing if not a somewhat consistent painter of miniatures. So when I saw this is the old first series Dragon of the Month. Well, the number 12 on the list is the, what is it here? Spectral Dragon, which is Tiamat. Grenadier had broken off with TSR. This was right as that happened that they did this. So when I saw that Spectral Dragon, I was like, I want that. So I PM'd him my address, and here we have it. And I know this isn't coming in very well on the big camera. I should have had that. Let me see if this will work. Okay, so I'm going to put the box over here. And it came with all of the inserts here. Let me just turn that off. Not a great camera angle. I apologize for that. But it came with the inserts and Dragon of the Month Series 2 Dragonstone Quest Contest. So let's read this. This This is a flyer, and then I'll show you guys the miniature itself. But here's a little flyer that came with it. So let's read this. In 1984, Grenadier, the leading name in fantasy miniatures, made miniatures history with the unparalleled success of the Dragon Lord's Dragon of the Month collection. Now, the most comprehensive and innovative line of dragon miniatures get even better with Grenadier's Dragons Series 2, 12 entirely new, unique dragons designed exclusively for this exciting collection by the imaginative minds of Grenadier. Neberon is the fantasy world created especially for this series to add color to the growing lines of Grenadier fantasy lords and dragon lords figurines. It is a world of magic and adventure, yet it is a world imperiled by dark evil. Neberon's sole salvation lies with the Dragon Flame Talisman, an artifact of immense power hidden ages ago by the mighty Dragon Lords. This talisman lies locked beneath the stone walls of the jeweled Dragonstone monolith. The secret to opening the Dragonstone is hidden in cryptic clues inscribed on map fragments scattered across Neberon. Each Dragons 2 box set contains a different map fragment. Collect all 12 map fragments and receive, absolutely free, with your 12 proof of purchase seals from Series 2, a miniature of the jeweled Dragonstone monolith to add final dimension to your collection of Dragon Lords. Decipher the clues found on the 12 map fragments, and you will join the honored ranks of the Knights of the Dragon Flame, as well as receive a free duplicate of the Dragon Flame Talisman for wear or display. Are you brave enough, clever enough to find the Dragon Flame and save Neberon? Join the quest contest. As a special bonus prize, Grenadier will draw at random from those who have solved the riddle one lucky winner. This winner will receive an original, one-of-a-kind signed map of Neberon by Grenadier artist Ray Rubin, framed and personally inscribed to the winner. This is sounding more and more and more like the letter that Ralphie read when he got his Ovaltine decoder pin for Little Orphan Annie in the Christmas Story. Let's see. Doomsword said, "Thank God it's not in shrink." I would have opened if it had been in shrink. Let's see. The second place drawing for a complete set of painted Series 2 dragons by Grenadier staff, master figure painter Cliff Unton, to those who have solved the riddle. 25 third place drawings for any Grenadier figure set autographed by the artists and personally inscribed to the winners. 150 fourth place drawings for a limited edition print of the 12th dragon standing guard at the Dragonstone signed, numbered, and autographed by John Bennett. We know John on Facebook. We like John. Let's see. All third and fourth place drawings are open to those who have sent their 12 proof of purchase seals torn from the Dragon of the Month Series 2. Only those who have solved the riddle are eligible for first and second place drawings. So from Grenadier there, folks, I don't think this contest is going on anymore. You're a little out of luck. And we have this illustration here. That is, and what does it say? Oh, we have something on the back. Dragon Lord's Dragon of the Month series. Grenadier presents a new edition of the Dragon Lord's figure line, the Ring of the Dragon Lord. Every month beginning in March 1984, a new wonder of the reptilian race will be presented. Each dragon set will contain an altar with an appropriate gemstone corresponding to the type of dragon. The altars are designed so that the 12 fit together to form the legendary Ring of the Dragon Lord. Collect all 12 dragon sets and receive the 13th dragon, the Dragon Lord, absolutely free with 12 proofs of purchase. Directions: epoxy glue the three-headed piece first. Next, glue the two-headed piece, glue on the tail, and when dry, glue on the wings. Test fit the pieces before gluing. This way you will see how they are supposed to fit. Let the glue dry before attempting to glue the next piece. All right, so here's the altar, which is nice and chunky with its gemstone, which again, let's see if we can get this up on camera to make it so you guys can see it slightly there. It's a little glass gemstone, and I have I have spoken of my love of, you know, little gemstones. I'm holding that up to the camera, you guys can't see it, of my love of gemstones in grenadier pieces. My hopefully someday completed painting Grenadier Red Dragon mini came with many gemstones, which are awesome. And here is the queen of evil dragonkind herself. Of course, unpainted. That is my job. That is my task. And once again, let's place that here. And we'll flip on the camera for you guys to see. And there she is. A fittingly awesome piece of classic art. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank the contributor for this. This is just awesome. You know, I have the box. And Mark, I guess you were working on the Dragon of the Month Series 2, because there is where the proof of purchase was taken from the box, but it is still a gorgeous box, and I look forward to exhibiting this up on a shelf when I get the studio all arranged. And there's a note. We have a note. Bill, well, that's me. Thanks for all the 100 hours of fun and for not killing Riddle. Campaign ain't over yet. Besides, I don't kill characters. The dice kill characters. I just facilitate that. Doomsword brings up something and says, I hadn't thought of lead rot. Sounds like something that might break the spell that's preventing me from opening some Star Frontiers PCs that I have. So, So here's Cal, are you kidding me? You have many of the Grenadier Red Dragon layers? Good Lord. That is awesome. It's good to know that, you know, rather than lying in the bottom of a junk box or a landfill somewhere, they're in your possession though. So lead rot, a quick primer, no pun intended, in lead rot. Older miniatures, and I'm sure this can happen to newer miniatures too, but older minis were almost 100% lead, little bit of tin in them. Lead will oxidize. That is rust. It will rust. Lead has its own form of rust, oxidation, and it will start to crumble away. Lead is not good to handle. You know, I like a lot of gamers, you know, we sit at a table and, you know, we do our hobbies and we eat. Well, I mean, how many people do you know from back in the day when we were kids that played D&D and had every mini painted and sealed? I think the answer is exactly that many. So, you know, we were all getting ingesting a little bit of lead, you know, chips, Coke, Mountain Dew, whatever. Move the wizard, chips, Coke, Mountain Dew, move the fighter. You see what I'm getting at. But with regard to the damage it can do, if you have the lead minis from back in the day and you want to preserve them, but you don't want to paint them, you should get a polyurethane-based sealer and seal them, every aspect of them. Maybe put it on a piece of newspaper, hit it, spray it lightly with a sealant. After it's dried, ease it over on its back and hit the bottom aspects of the miniature, because you might be like, oh yeah, I'm sealing it up, and under the arms, under the skirt, behind the shield, at the bottom of the base, on the bottom of the base, it can still oxidize and it can still crumble away. So so that is a thing that can happen. I saw, this was ages ago, somebody shared something, I don't even remember the forum, but basically a family member had a game store and they passed away, and the game store was literally shuttered up. Now, it was a hobby shop. Like, by the time I got around to it, they had said, yes, we know how valuable the classic Dungeons and Dragons stuff was. It's gone, but we still have shelves and shelves of miniatures we're trying to get rid of. And there were, I want to say, was it Heritage? I can't recall. But they had a little cardboard fold over tab, and they were stapled baggies. And most, if not all, of those miniatures had started lead rot, and they were way too far gone. They were literally only good for scrap lead. So it can happen. It can happen. Yes, Doom Sword, do take care of them. Now, you're talking about minis in this case that are probably only just turning around 40, and they've been kept in your house, I'm guessing, somewhere on a bookshelf. And if you can see them through the blister and you don't see any white buildup, they're still okay, but seal them now anyway. But you're quite welcome, Doom Sword. Yeah, so they're, like I said, they're only just turning 40, and if you kept them in your house and you've kept them dry and probably oxidation hasn't really started to. And if you do see a little, it's not like leprosy. It's not, well, the mini's doomed, might as well just throw it away. Just gently brush or scrape away what you can and seal the rest of the mini immediately. Yeah, I mean, they're kept in dry storage. If you're going to keep lead minis for collection purposes, one thing you can do, particularly if you're in a humid environment like Florida, just grab some silica desiccant bags. Just grab a few of those from electronics or something like that, and don't throw those away. They have 1,001 uses. Whatever container you're storing them in, throw some of those in there, and they'll keep that mini. They'll keep that mini taken care of. So there was one thing, and I didn't get to this with Kyle, and I don't know that I had the energy to go into it, but there is more stuff is going on with TSR3, which I'll just stick a pin in that because I want to come back to that. Wash them with soapy water. Okay, Cal. I will, if that's what works with you and that works, then take Cal's advice on that. Wash with soapy water. Something else you can do. This is a good prep method for painting minis is go to an auto parts store and get a brass brush. Gently, and I've shown this on the show in my painting techniques, gently stroke like you're brushing a baby's hair. Gently stroke the minis, following the general lines of the mini to help put just a faint patina on them that you can't even see with the naked eye. That can also loosen up the oxidation. And then wash them and dry them. Anyway, so to my amazement, a few weeks ago, TSR 3 came out on top with one of their legal wranglings with Wizards of the Coast. And good for them, I guess, that's good. But something else has come up now. They've got they're I don't even know how to unpack this. So a new, you're bringing up Star Frontiers minis. That's good. A new Star Frontiers has been published by TSR 3. TSR 3. That doesn't belong to TSR 3. The new or Star Frontiers, the name, the Dralicites, the Vrusk, the Uzirians. I think there's like a robot race in the game too, but the bad guys, the Sathar, and so on. None of that has ever been released for anybody and everybody to use. A new TSR game has been, a new Star Frontiers game has been published by TSR. And Wizards of the Coast have basically started legal proceedings up against TSR 3. I have said time and again, don't bait these people. They're not screwing around. Now, I'm just, you know what? I'm just going to lay it out. You guys at TSR 3, if you screw things up by forcing Wizards' hand, and they're just like, you know what, as part of this legal wrangling, we're just going to delete on the back catalog PDF sales and print on demand sales until this is settled. And it'll be settled by TSR 3 getting the hammer dropped on them. And then they come back and they're like, nah, you know what? It's too much of a hassle. We're just not going to bother. We're just not going to flip that switch. We're not going to run that Python script to allow all that stuff to be accessible again. I'm going to be pissed. You guys will know. I will have a very special episode about that if that goes down. Hasbro's not your friend. Wizards of the Coast isn't your friend. I know that. Everyone watching the stream knows that. They're not screwing around. Is the hill you want to die on the one that takes classic D&D down with it? Because I can't point people to eBay and say, oh, you want to play AD&D? Sure, a Dungeon Master's Guide is about $155 for a copy that, looks like it's been moldering in the bottom of somebody's basement shelf. One Player's Handbook is about $75. If you don't believe me with these prices, by the way, go look on eBay. And, a monster manual, same thing, $75, $100. I can tell people, I can hold my nose and spend and tell somebody to spend $9 on a PDF of a D&D book to get bound at a third-party printing shop. All right. But if you guys think that they're kidding, if you think their legal department is going to let some David and Goliath stuff go down and you're going to come out on top and just walk away with all of the classic D&D stuff, or maybe that's not even your goal, just getting them to take that banner down because you own TSR and you own the trademarks. Dude, clean out your headgear. All right? Think about it. This is Hasbro. Okay? Wizards of the Coast is not some dinky little side organization. Wizards of the Coast management came from Hasbro. Hasbro's management came from Wizards of the Coast. It is a juggernaut. And I'd rather avoid its attention. Yes, I would love to live in the lollipop forest where I could just pluck a D&D book off a tree as I need it. We don't live there now. It belongs to them. And I will sit right here and look in that camera, and I will tell you exactly how much I don't respect and I don't like Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, because I don't like them and I don't respect them. But I respect their legal power. I respect their ability to disappear the old school hobby just like that. And I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody out there who's enjoying the hell out of Blue Home and out of Swords and Wizardry and out of Osric. I don't want Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to become an unattainable relic or OD&D. Yes, the disclaimer bugs me. Yes, I think it's more than just a little bit Harrison Bergeron-like. But we're playing nice and they're playing nice. I was going to compare this to mutually assured destruction, but it's not mutual. It's just destruction or assured destruction. I am not part of the OSR. All right. I don't create old stuff to get me closer to famous people, the beautiful people. I'm a guy who loves AD&D and OD&D. And if a byblow of that is any of that other stuff, well, so what? But I want to be able to sit down and I want to be able to show people where they can get classic D because I think it's better. I think it's better than 5th edition. I think it's better than what Wizards of the Coast is putting out. So TSR3, if you think these guys are screwing around, if you think they're kidding around, keep doing stuff like this. I mean, honestly, this isn't. I mean, they're not screwing around, dude. This is the equivalent of me knocking together a distribution of Linux and calling it Windows 11 or even Windows for work groups. Okay. That's my 10,000 foot perspective. That's what I'm seeing from up here. And I have a feeling if I did that, it would go over just as well with Microsoft. And they would point the death ray right at me. Except in doing so, I wouldn't take down vintage gaming and vintage computing. And that's my fear here. Not that you're putting your finger in their eye. Don't get me wrong. Don't put me on their side, and don't put me in with DOS OSR crowd. Well, until I hear more or know more, that's all I've got to say about that. That's my editorializing for the night. I want to take a minute real quick before I go, though. I want to thank all of those people who contribute to the patron, everybody who contributes to the show by watching the show. I thank you all. But I do want to give a special shout out to patrons, to Digital Discord, Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Joseph Lucas, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Sampson, Damien 24/7, he never rests, James F. Keck and his whole observatory, William, not the guy in Conan the Barbarian Smith, the Dungeon Minister, and Manny Wall. Thank you all very much for contributing to the continued success of this show. And guys, we're at 973 subs, unless some people just got cheesed off at me. You know what? I'm not checking to see if I cheese people off. I'm actually checking to see if we gain any subs. 973 subscribers. That's awesome. I love it. Kick ass. That's fantastic. You guys have an absolutely fantastic evening. I will be back tomorrow evening when we're going to play some first edition Gamma World. That's right. The party is drawing closer and closer to potentially solving the mystery of why the food shipments from Goodwater have stopped. So tune in tomorrow and see where their investigations and adventures take them. I am going to wish you all a great evening now and go see if I can scrounge something up for dinner. So have a lovely one. Don't take any wooden gold pieces. And yeah, peace out, my friends.